out. Whenever there's an opportunity for me to be able to speak publicly in front of a group of people that care or that I can even especially relate to, being Purdue Boilermakers, is obviously an opportunity that I want to jump at. So thank you for this opportunity, one. So I kind of continue into who I am. So my name is Charles Torwudzo. I played football at Purdue. I graduated from Brownsburg High School in 2010. I currently work at USA Football for the U.S. national team. USA Football is the national governing body of the sport of football here in the United States, along with USA Basketball, gymnastics, track and field. We're in that same Olympic family, except we're not quite in the Olympics yet, which I'll probably get into a little bit later. But a little bit about me as far as my background. Again, I went to Brownsburg High School, graduated 2010, was recruited by Coach Danny Hope to come play at Purdue, played wide receiver and tight end my last 2 years under Coach Hazel. I don't know if you guys followed football through that era. That was a rough time for Purdue football. So obviously you guys are still at the school though, so it didn't deter too many people away from West Lafayette, which is good. So was at Purdue again from year 2010, 2015. Played receiver, played tight end. While I was there, I studied selling and sales management with a minor in communication as well as a minor in OLS, which I think has since been renamed to Organizational Leadership, Supervision, and Innovation or something along those lines. And then I also had a certificate in entrepreneurship while I was there as well. One thing I'll say about Purdue that rings true for me, I can't speak for any other universities, obviously me having graduated from Purdue, but no matter where I go, me and my wife just got back from San Francisco last week. There's always people in black and gold all over the country, all over the world. We ran out of the country when we got married and there was multiple Purdue alum. So that P holds a lot of weight. So just be cognizant of that. Wherever you go, you're representing the brand, you're representing the university. So represent yourself and the university in a first-class manner. Obviously, I try to do that to the best of my ability most of the time. So again, while I was there, I was selling and sales management. You guys all know about Craner School of Management. Majority of my classes were in Craner at the time. One thing I will say is, yes, all of your homework assignments and all that stuff are tough. All your final exams, all that stuff is tough. But at the end of the day, what that does, it sets you up for success for the simple fact that it teaches you really, really good habits and work habits. Like now, so kind of transitioning into now. After 2015, I graduated, worked out for a handful of different NFL teams. Unfortunately, didn't sign with any NFL teams. Signed with the CFL team, Ottawa Red Blacks, to play receiver, and eventually ended up getting waived. Played arena football, and then I applied for a position with USA Football. This was like in 2017, I believe. One thing I'll say, as far as when it comes to your career search, right? For some people in this audience, maybe student athletes, some may not be. But when it comes to your career search, one of the little nuggets that I've continued to find is true is that, if you're able to get your foot in the door with a specific team that you want to work with in a specific industry, so say someone really wants to focus on hockey or someone really wants to focus on football, basketball, whatever the case may be, getting your foot in the door is never, ever, ever a bad thing, right? So I was playing football in arena football in Boston when I applied for a position at USA Football. The position was like some sort of service and experience coordinating position, which ultimately just meant I was upstairs answering the phone and resetting a lot of people's passwords. Like that's what my day-to-day was. Not super sexy, not fun really, but it was a foot in the correct door, which ultimately led me to what I do now. So currently, I'm the senior coordinator of football operations and high performance for the U.S. national team. It's kind of a sexy name. It sounds really, really cool. But what I do when it comes really down to it is I travel a lot for our regional events. I evaluate players. I evaluate coaches. I work closely with the NFL depending on which, events are hosted in different cities and stuff like that. And ultimately, I evaluate all these different people to put together the best team that we can. One little tidbit, it's kind of a little bit of the behind the curtains type of information is in 2028, so 2024, well, let's even go back to this year. So 2020, technically, the Olympics are in Tokyo, right? 2024, they're going to be in Paris. All the games are already set for Paris. 2028, we're going to be in Los Angeles. The Olympics are going to be in LA. during that LA time, right now, what we're planning on and what we're pushing towards is we're trying to get 5-on-5 men's and women's flag football in as a game in the 2028 Olympics that are in LA. So that's what we're going towards right now. That's one of the biggest things, that we're really pushing towards. We've actually kind of geared more of what we do towards that part of it versus the tackle part of it, just because when it comes to the Olympic Committee, so the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, the IOC has all these different rules and regulations around not necessarily Olympic Village, but there's 10,500. That's the constraint of athletes that they have at the games every single year. So tackle football, when it comes to tackle football, we basically had no chance, right? Because you think about teams, there's 53 men on a roster, not including all the position coaches, not including the coordinators, training staff, everything else. So when you 5-on-5 men's and 5-on-5 women's, I mean, that shaves it down a tremendous amount, which gives it a viable chance that, we'll be able to go different countries across the world, China, Japan, Mexico, Canada, Australia, all these different places are playing flag football. They're playing at a relatively high level. Like this past weekend, we were in Frisco. I wasn't in Frisco. I was here celebrating a wedding ceremony, but my team was in Frisco playing against Israel, playing against Mexico, and in an international friendly, again, in an attempt to continue to grow the game. So I say all that just to tell you guys, if you have something specific or specific industry that you are really intrigued by, go for it. Put your foot in the door. Even if you're upstairs answering phones or, doing stuff like that, it may not be exactly what you want to do at the time, but it could definitely transition into something, that you would really see fulfilling and something that you would definitely want yourself to do. Another case I have to share now recently, just because my wife has been going through it a lot recently. She works at Fox 59 here in Indianapolis, and there is a show called Indy Now. It's a lifestyle show. And she was never really intentionally trying to get onto that specific show. But again, she put her foot in the right position. She continued to allow people to understand that she was interested in what she wanted to do. And now we're in a fortunate position where she's been offered to potentially host and be a part of the show. So again, that's a piece of advice I continue to believe reigns true, is just having the opportunity to step into the right position, make yourself known, make yourself readily available so that when the opportunity does come, you're ready, you're prepared, and you're just ready to step into it. So that's a little bit about me. That's kind of where I'm at in my career currently. If you guys have any questions, please, I'm obviously wide open to questions. If you guys want my email or my social or anything like that, I'm pretty easy to find, pretty out there and forward with what I'm up to, excuse me. So I don't want to bore you guys to death. So let me know if you guys have any questions, please.
I guess I'll start it off. What's been your favorite events or favorite place you've been?
Oh, that's a good one. There's a couple. So as the national governing body, we have basically there's a full event calendar, right? 12 months out of the year, different times of the year call for different events. And kind of how it works and rolls for us is we have what's called our regional event schedule. And that is where we travel from city to city, anywhere from 12 to 18 different locations, scouting tackle. This was when we were scouting specifically just tackle football players. On any given weekend, we would have 3 different locations going. So I could be in Indianapolis. We'll have a location in Denver. We'll have a location in Tampa, all doing the same thing at the same time. And we'll draw typically about 300 athletes per location. So really there's about 900 athletes that we're servicing nationwide on any given weekend through that 12 to 18 different location span, right? After our regionals, so athletes come to the regionals, we scout them, I staff them. I'm the one that's getting the Ohio State coach there, or the Purdue coaches. I have a couple guys that I played with at Purdue that I'll bring and I'll hire, and they'll come out to Indy or Chicago or wherever we're going. They'll evaluate players. I'll ultimately get the notes from those athletes. If I like the way a certain coach evaluates players, I'll have him come and coach our U14, U16, U18, U19 teams at what we call our International Bowl, which is at AT&T Stadium. And at International Bowl, that's when we invite the Canada, the Japan, the Australia, all these different teams to come and play. So for me, as far as my favorite events, without question, it's International Bowl. just because that's really the pinnacle of what we do. That's the cream of the crop. We get our best athletes. We have, I don't know how close you guys follow Purdue football, but I was recruiting David Bell to come play for our U19 team. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to come and make that one, but we did get a Purdue receiver named Colin Sullivan. So keep your eyes out for him. He's number 81. I don't think he's struck the field as much lately, but he will. He's a great player. These are guys that I'm recruiting constantly. So I enjoy that part of it, but because of my favorite event, which is International. So I love playing at AT&T. Obviously, the Cowboys play there. Jerry's World is insane. It's state-of-the-art facility. So I would definitely say our International AT&T is my favorite event.
Anyone else have any questions? Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Purdue football like this year?
What are your thoughts on Purdue football right now this year?
Oh man, that's a great question. You put me in the hot seat. Honestly, I love Purdue football. I'm a blue blood Purdue football fan. My jersey's behind me right here. I love Purdue football. I think this year it's a very telling, it's a very pivotal year. Me and my wife went to the Oregon State games, the home opener. Great win for us. We follow up. We beat who we beat week 2? UConn, shut them out. Notre Dame game was a lot more competitive than I thought that it would be. Early, our defense looked really, really good after pitching a shutout in Connecticut and then going to South Bend and playing very, very well in the first half. Then we beat Illinois, of course. And then this past week when we play, obviously, trophy games are big. So love when we beat Illinois. But then this past weekend when we played Minnesota, it's tough right now for the simple fact that the quarterback situation. I think that we got to have a guy that we trust and a guy that we go with. It's hard to gain your rhythm. Coming from a receiver who's played at Purdue, I had Caleb Turbush, I had Rob Marv, I had Austin Appleby, Danny Etling. We had, David Ballot, all these guys that were constantly going in and out. I'm just a firm believer of if you hand the reins over to a guy, let them do what they got to do and kind of live or die by what you get there. And then until they prove you otherwise, then yank them and put another cat in. But again, that's just me. I know there's a lot of coaches that do the 2-platoon type of situation. I think that we have a good shot in the Big Ten. The Big Ten's a tough conference to win games in. So, I'm diehard, win, lose, or draw. It's black and gold for me for life. So, it's tough. Some years are tougher than others. But I can tell you this team has a shot to do something special this year, even though we're still up 3. We're 3-2 right now, but we got a shot. So that's all you can kind of ask for in this conference.
What does your day-to-day work look like for you?
That's a great question. So my day-to-day, every single day is a little bit different. So USA Football, our headquarters is downtown in Indianapolis, which is where I live. It's actually very clutch. We moved right across the street from where the Pacers play. We've been here a handful of months. We love it so far. But after COVID hit, we all went remote. So a lot of our team flew out. People are in Florida. People are on the East Coast, West Coast. Everybody's all over the country right now. So the day-to-day has changed dramatically since 2020. I wake up at about 6:30 a.m. I go work out, get back in here. I typically have a meeting between 9 and 9:30. It's our national team and our high performance meeting. That kind of lets us go through exactly what we have planned for that specific day. Like right now, I'm working with Max Preps weekly to decide who is the Max Preps / USA Football player of the week, which has been an interesting task because there's some kids that are putting up crazy, ridiculous numbers. Like one kid threw for 11 touchdowns the other day. Come to find out, due to COVID, they're playing 6-man football. It's basically 6-on-6. So I'm like, okay, I don't know how to. So that's something I'm overcoming currently. But we wake up, work out. I get my work meetings knocked out typically pretty early. Then what we do is right now we're in the process of sourcing a lot of different athletes and really building lists and recruiting a lot right now. So we're trying to get ahead of it for this next calendar year. Like right now, during the football season, college is playing, high school is playing, professional is playing. So this is really our downtime to be planning for the summer and for the off season. So our calendar is almost opposite, right? So during the football season, we don't do a whole lot. During the off season for football is when we're full tilt. Like I'll be gone 17 weekends literally in a row in a different city every single week, scouting, evaluating athletes. But right now, it's a little bit slower, which has actually, been relatively nice. It's been kind of nice to not have to go, to the Indianapolis airport every single Friday morning at 4 a.m. to get on a plane and fly to God knows where. So slow down for me a little bit. And then I'll jump on random Zooms here and there throughout the day. Like I said, meet with Max Preps other day. So on USA Football's board of directors, we have Mike Murphy, who is the CEO of the Green Bay Packers. He jumped on, meeting with these different folks and just, kind of sharing different information that we're seeing in the marketplace, kind of how the game is trending with all the different social justice things that have been going on and how people are incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion in their organizations and how we can use some of that stuff, what we do. So, I mean, to be honest with you right now, it's relatively lax, but during the regional season, I can tell you it's a lot faster paced. So kind of going back to what I was saying, when we have 3 different cities that are all going at the same time, all have athletes, I'm in charge of staffing the coaches. So say, again, we have a regional in Seattle. I'll try to get at least a coach from Oregon State, Washington State, some like Pac-12 schools will be present there, right? So I got to utilize those relationships that I have. Say we're down in Florida, I'll try to get, whether it's UF, whether it's Miami, whoever these different schools, and then here in Indy, obviously, I'll grab Purdue, IU, and all these different schools. So I'm constantly chasing my tail, knowing that there's potentially 300 athletes in each one of these cities. That really means I'm trying to get a good ratio is 1 coach to 10 players, right? So 30 coaches per city. My phone will literally be going absolutely berserk the entire week. And now if the numbers fluctuate with the coach or with the players, okay, say a city only has 200 athletes, I only need 20 coaches. And that's all tied to a budget, right? So each coach is going to get paid a certain amount of money in each location. Now, if we overstaff the coaches are going to get, there's 30 coaches and there's 150 kids. That's, 15 or 5 coaches per athlete or 5 athletes per coach. So budgeting is a big part of this as well, which again, as a former athlete, you don't think about all this type of stuff. You just show up and ball. But now it's a little bit different because again, you're trying to get the good ratio of player to coach in each city so that each one has a good evaluation. But also you're not trying to spend all the organization's money on coaches if there's only going to be this amount of players. So that's kind of something that I battle with typically through regional season. But right now it's pretty lax. So sorry, if you guys can tell, I kind of get on these tangents to get to going. So
No, we appreciate it. We'll take all the information we can get.
okay, great.
Anyone else have any other questions? Yeah.
So like, what was the other schools that were recruiting you and why did you decide to go to Purdue?
So I didn't quite hear it. Say it one more time.
What schools were recruiting you and what made you come to Purdue?
Oh, that's a good question. So we were actually talking about this the other day. So oddly enough, so I moved to Indiana, Brownsburg on the west side in 6th grade. And I became good friends with one of my buddies. His name is Grant. Grant's entire family was IU. Like his mom went to IU, his dad went to IU. And if you guys are familiar with the state of Indiana basketball is extremely popular. People just like the cream and crimson for whatever reason. So I was in Bloomington frequently and got really familiar with the coaches, et cetera. IU was actually the first school that offered me, was Indiana. And I almost committed to IU. But I waited. IU offered me. I had an offer from Stanford, Syracuse, Cincinnati, Kentucky offered me. I had a handful of different offers and a lot of schools that were chasing me that didn't necessarily offer were waiting to offer. I broke my ankle my junior year of high school going into my senior year after being all-state and everything else. But then Coach Hope, he just really did a great job selling me. And to be honest with you, Coach Hope to this day was one of my favorite coaches just because he kept it so real and he kept it so honest. But to that same extent, I try to be the person and the voice of reason for these athletes, for these young men and women, that I come in contact with. I want them to know, listen, they may sell you on whatever it is that they want you to believe, but when you step foot on campus, the energy may be completely different. Like they'll come and recruit you in your home, in front of your friends, in front of your family, and tell you one thing. And then once you touch down on campus, it's like, okay, hey, boom, 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 boom. It's no more lovey-dovey, like hugs and everything else. It's listen, this is a business. You know, these guys' salaries and really their livelihood is attached to wins and losses that ultimately ride on players like me and like athletes that are at Purdue. So the warm fuzz feeling kind of goes, but the main reason that I ended up picking Purdue was largely because really the academic background, you know, and the rich football tradition as well. When you look at the bucket, and I still use this line on my IU friends to this day, like in our lifetime, we're not going to see IU's win total be more than Purdue's win total, not in basketball or in football. So as far as athletics goes, it's not even close. Purdue is a better athletic school, and we can have the argument, you know, till I'm blue in the face. Yeah, they have banners from however long ago, but at the end of the day, numbers don't lie. So really, that's what ended up selling me the most was the rich athletic tradition at Purdue.
Yeah. What was your favorite class at Purdue, if you can remember?
My favorite classes. Ooh, that's a good question. You're like making me go back, like in my mind to think about this stuff. I would say, to be honest with you, one of my favorite classes was the entrepreneurship course, the certificate program that I was a part of. And largely because I felt that to this day, you know, having an idea or having some entrepreneurial venture that you're really interested in and being able to pitch that in front of real sharks is extremely valuable because you have to field questions and it really prepares you for real life in a lot of ways, right? So, you know, I don't know if any of you guys are in the entrepreneurship certificate program currently. I don't even know if they still offer it, to be honest with you, but
They do. They still have it.
Do they still have it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. It was. I enjoyed it a lot. One of my teammates, his name is Brad. He came up with A-Zip Pizza in our class, which he pitched to Sharks, and he ended up winning the entire thing, which I think was like, you know, I don't know if it was 100,000 or 10,000. It was a lot of money, right? And he actually ended up making and coming and pushing through with his entire entrepreneurial idea, which was A-Zip Pizza, which is basically a take on Qdoba and Chipotle, how they make those the burritos in front of you, but it's for like pizza. So you can make like a pizzone or like actual pizza, whatever, right in front of you. You just ask them to boom, they fire it for you and they give it to you. Similar to LeBron's Blaze, which is they're kind of competitors. But that class was awesome because I feel like it gave you a lot of real world takeaways and stuff that I still utilize today, like just being prepared. And if I have to pitch to my boss, listen, this is why I like the Ohio State coach over the Penn State coach, or if this is why I like this player over this player, that just, again, those habits that I took from that specific course are still things that I use today. So.
I guess I'll ask you, like, did you have any internships, and also like how did you get into the position you're in today? So how did you get your job with USA Football?
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. So the way that I got my job at USA Football, so I was actually, at the time, I was playing, like I said, I was playing arena football in Boston. And I was trying to find reasons to come back. Like, after the season, I'm like, okay. And for anybody that doesn't know, arena football players do not get paid big money, right? Like you're essentially playing for the opportunity to play in the CFL or to ultimately play in the NFL. But playing arena football, you're not going to become a millionaire. You're not going to become rich by playing in the arena football league. You're just not. Like, that's just the reality. So, but I would say when I was in Boston playing, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do after the season is over? And I was just on LinkedIn regularly. My wife at the time, girlfriend, was also looking for opportunities. She goes, hey, USA Football. And it's also here in Indiana. So I was like, okay, cool. And again, it kind of goes back to that point I was making earlier of just trying to get your foot in the right door. I was less concerned with what the actual job functions were for the position. And I was more concerned with the organization I was getting ready to step into, which, ultimately ended up being a pretty good situation. So I was interviewing at the public library in Boston with one of my good buddies. His name is Dan at the time, and he has since left the company. But Dan took a chance on me. He saw that I had a really good football background. He liked what I was doing, and ultimately that's what got me into the role. After I got into the role, I kind of, was figuring out the lay of the land, checking out the different departments that are within USA Football. Like we have an education department, which is primarily focused on building and creating content to educate people on how to tackle safer, different offensive, defensive schemes. At the time, we had like a podcast. It's called The Coach's Corner, which would give good insight on specific different things that are going on throughout the week and stuff like that. So kind of getting to know the lay of the land. Met my current boss, AI, who is, he was the one that was saying, yeah, I build the teams. I'm the one that travels to all these different events, blah, blah, blah. Basically, I was like, okay, that might be it. Kind of ended up getting closer to him and ultimately was voicing, not overly, strong, but trying to communicate to people in the organization, let them know, hey, I'm a football guy. This is what I want my next step to look like here. So that way, when the opportunity opened, I kind of just slid my resume over. They kind of already knew what I wanted to do, and it kind of worked out that way. So it's vital that, again, whatever organization that you go to, don't be overly boisterous that you're not content in the role that you're doing. Crush whatever it is that you're doing, and then they'll consider you for other things as long as you're making yourself available and really vocalizing that you're interested in doing other things as well. So it started off as me answering the phones. I met the guy who I thought, may potentially be hiring for this. We became close. And then, I was working with players primarily. Then I started working with players and coaches. And, now I'm in the position that I'm in now. So.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that answered a little bit of your question.
Yeah, no. You also have any other questions? Yep.
So, what kind of skills do you think that you realize you may or may not have needed to find a little more once you joined an organization like USA Football?
Okay, so I heard what kind of skills?
Yeah, what kind of skills did you need or find out that you didn't need to once you got into working with USA Football?
Yeah, that's a good one. So as far as specific skills, to be honest with you, in my opinion, a lot of the things that I know now are things that are, that you can teach somebody, right? But again, some of the things that I know also are things that you just have to learn through example. For example, evaluating players or evaluating coaches. As I've continued to go as a player, I know what type of coaches that I like. In my opinion, I know what makes a good coach from a bad coach. I don't know if you guys have seen what's been going on with Urban Meyer lately. It's a bad look. But you can start to understand characters and different coaching schemes and stuff like that makes you feel like, okay, this is a good coach. This is a bad coach. Okay, this is what makes a good player. This is what makes a bad player. So as far as skills that I would say I walked in the door with, I think there's my football background really helped me out a lot. It took me a lot further than I even realized it would. But I think in all industries across the board, being able to be flexible, but also what my position coach at the time, Coach Jared Parker, told me that I still tell people to this day is adding value. That's the most valuable thing that you could possibly do, because there's a lot of tasks that people don't want to do on a day-to-day basis. But if you're willing to pick those things up and be good at them, you add value, right? It's no different than, and he was telling our entire tight ends, our entire wide receivers room this the entire time. Listen, nobody wants to run down and, try to break the shield on special teams. You're basically just sacrificing your body. But if you become good at that, there's a spot for you on this team, right? No different than in any organization. Everybody has different roles that they have to do. And if you find something that people necessarily aren't good at or a place that's a weakness, and you become good at that and you take the time to become good at that, you're going to be able to add value to that organization. You're going to be able to be an impact within that organization. So definitely just being able to be flexible, always being able to add value, and being coachable. Being coachable and being a quick learner are the two best things. And so I'll drop this little nugget as well. So basically, in my position that I'm in now, I typically have 2 interns that I manage. And I'm always looking for great people that are willing to jump aboard. And 9 times out of 10, the folks that jump on, if they're good people, there's always opportunities, outside this. And like I said, I'm talking to all Power 5 conferences, Pac-12, ACC, Big Ten, all these different coaches that are also constantly hiring. So, if you come and intern and you do a great job, and I know somebody in the city who's hiring, or I know somebody in the Pac-12 or wherever that's hiring, because these people will continually hit me up again, because we don't pay too shabby when these guys come out and coach for us. So we like to have these conversations. Hey, do you know anybody that's doing this? Do you know anybody that's doing that? I'll typically float a name or two out there. So, but that's because those folks are, again, coachable, willing to jump on anything, that have thick skin, and they're ready to go and add value. So those are probably my 3 or 4 biggest points.
So are you mostly you look to recruit or scout high school players? Is that what you're mostly looking at?
Yep. So as far as the scouting portion of it, so for the tackle side, which again, we've kind of eased the brakes on, we've let up on that side just a little bit because we're in pursuit of the Olympics right now. But our age ranges are U14 to U19 on the tackle side. And then on the flag side, it's the same age group, but then there's also an adult age group. And that's who's actually playing in Frisco recently. So when we go to the Olympics, knock on wood, when we plan to go to the Olympics in 2028, it's going to be 5-on-5 men's and women's, and that's going to be adult. So ages 21, actually, I'm sorry, ages 19 and up qualifies as an adult to qualify for the Olympic team.
So have you been keeping up with high school football currently at all? Center Grove and stuff? Because I know that's there.
Yeah, actually, I try to watch as much as I can. Friday nights are football, Saturdays are football, Sundays are football. We're getting ready to watch the Monday night game here soon. But I don't know if you guys have seen this or not yet. Again, my wife works in the news, but Carmel and Ben Davis this past weekend, I don't know if you guys saw that game or not, but there was some shots that were fired outside of the school at Ben Davis, ended up canceling the game. But yeah, I try to stay as up to date on high school football as I can. There's a lot of high school football players across the country and high school programs. But like I said, when I staff these different places, these are not all college coaches that we use. We use high school coaches, and how that process even goes. We have what's called a regional application. And that lives on our USAFootball.com website. And then it says coach for the national team, coaches from literally all over the country. We typically have thousands and thousands and thousands of coaches across the country that will apply. So when I'm going to go staff the camp that's in Baltimore this week or in Kansas City, I just go into Salesforce, I pull it up. Okay, we have 300 coaches that have applied. Let me see if I can get 2 of these guys for quarterback. Let me see if I can get 3 of these guys for running back. Same with Kansas City, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of how that goes. But I try to be as up to date on high school, especially here in Indiana, as I can.
Yeah.
What do you think about the name, image, and likeness and how that's affected recruiting and college football and all that?
That is probably one of the better questions that I fielded here recently with the name, image, likeness. So NIL was completely different when I played, right? My class actually was the last class. I think it was 2014 was the last year for NCAA football. They ultimately wrote us, each one of us, depending on how often we showed up in the game or whatever. We ultimately got a little check. I think I ended up getting $2,500 or something like that for my name, image, likeness being in the game, which was phenomenal. I think, to be honest with you, it's an interesting rule change. I'm 100% for it, having been a college athlete. But I'm going to tell you right now, the schools that adapt and wrap their arms around this the soonest are going to be the ones that are going to excel the most, right? Then you have the schools like BYU, who are still saying that their athletes aren't necessarily allowed to do endorsements with things that the school is against, like caffeine deals or stuff like that. Like if you go to BYU, it's a very, very it's a pretty strict environment. But like I said, I'm all for it. I think that it's great. It's going to get interesting just for the simple fact that you're going to have different schools that have donors that are, I forget, there's one university, it might've been Arkansas, don't quote me on that, but a handful of different universities that have donors that work for XYZ, and then all their walk-ons ended up getting the full scholarship for name, image, likeness, which again, I'm all for it. As athletes generate all of the money. So I think that it's absolutely time that, they kind of get a slice of that pie to some extent.
I guess maybe like one more question. Does anyone else have any more before I ask one more? Okay. My last question is, what's your favorite memory from Purdue football, or your time here playing football at Purdue?
Ooh, my time playing at Purdue. There's so I have two. I have one playing and I have one not playing. I'll say the one that's not playing first, just because you all may have experienced this as well. But obviously, having been able to be on the field and rush the field after we beat Ohio State when they're the number 2 team in the country, like come on, like not everybody ever gets to experience that in a lifetime. That's rare. And seeing Rondell Moore do what he did at that time was incredible. But as far as a playing memory, there was our 2013 season after Coach Hope had got released. He got let go. Coach Higgins from BYU was our interim head coach, and we had to go on the road and beat Illinois. We had to go on the road and beat Iowa, and then IU came to town, and we had to beat them we had to go 3-0 to close out our season in order to get eligible to win, to go to a bowl game at all. And we beat Illinois, got the cannon back. We went to Kinnick Stadium in Iowa. Paul Griggs kicks like a 43-yard field goal, something crazy. We beat Iowa at Iowa, and then IU comes and we win the bucket as well. So those 3 games, we ended up getting smashed in the in the bowl game. Unfortunately, we played Oklahoma State, but those 3 games ultimately, and the end of that season, how that season ended on that high note for us after our coach ended up getting canned. There was nothing like that. We all kind of band together, and that's kind of what, that's what the game's all about. So that was definitely, without question, my favorite memory at Purdue.
Yeah, that's really cool to, I think, be a part of that, especially on, going 3-0 and then coming home and beating IU. It's always a great feeling.
Oh, whenever you can beat IU is the best. There's no question.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us today. Do you have an email or anything? I know you're on LinkedIn. That's kind of how I got in contact with you. But could I share your email with everyone and stuff to see if, just in case they have any more questions after today?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if you guys have a pen and paper, you can write this down and shoot me an email. Like I said, we typically have multiple interns that jump in throughout the year. And like I said, our placement rate isn't too shabby afterwards. So my email address is C as in cat, my last name, TORWUDZO @usafootball.com. So it's ctorwudzo@usafootball.com. And you guys can hit me up on there. Obviously, my first and last name. You guys throw me in Google. You can find me on LinkedIn, find me on Twitter, Instagram. You'll be surprised how many coaches hit me on Twitter, on Instagram, or on LinkedIn. But yeah, if you guys have any questions moving forward in regards to your career search, what moves to make next, you won't have a specific national governing body that you want to get into, whether it's basketball or gymnastics, track and field, whatever. I have a handful of friends that work in different industries as well. So please reach out, use your network. I'm here for my Boilermakers forever. That's one of the best things about being a Boilermaker as well, is really tapping into your network and utilizing that. So please use me to the best of your ability if you have anything, guys. So
You think you'll make any more football games this year at Purdue?
Yeah, so I couldn't make it this past weekend. I had family in town, but I think I told my buddy, I said either Michigan State, and I'll definitely be there for the bucket game without question. So those two will be Michigan State and the bucket game.
Got it. We'll try to look out for you. See if we can. We can meet up. Me and there's a couple other people in here that we work during the game. We do event operations and interns, so we're running around Ross State all day. So.
Oh, perfect. That's awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing you. I expect to see you all out there.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
For sure. Absolutely. Hey, like I said, if you guys have any questions or anything else moving forward, please hit me up. Thanks for taking the time, and I'm happy to help any way I can. So.